Hey guys, how are you today? Today I'm going to show you how to manually, with hand tools, set grommets into a corset so that it can be laced up the back. So I've already cut and sewn this corset, and this particular design has a backing here because my client is allergic to metals, so I didn't want anything to touch her body. And I didn't want that big flap. We wanted, some open skin back here. So the process that I use, these are my tools. These grommets I get from Wawak, and these are size 00. And I'm going to use the silver grommets today. So each grommet, the reason why I like to use grommets instead of eyelets is because of this little extra piece that a grommet has. This little flat piece locks onto the back of the eyelet so it won't pop out. So if you use grommets instead of eyelets, then your ring isn't gonna come out of the fabric and like end up sliding up your tie. So this is, these are, like I said, 00 from Wawak. Now I am gonna use, I have a grommet press, but I actually like using the hand setting tools better, believe it or not. So this is the setter. So you pound this end, and then this end fits into the grommet. And then this is the bottom side where you put this fits in there, and then you put this over the top, and then you pound it in. So I'll show you how that part works. So the first thing we're gonna do right now is we're gonna measure out where we want our grommet holes to go, okay? So I'm gonna put these, usually I do 1.5 inches apart. So I just wanna check and see if we go 1.5 inches, how that's gonna look, where those are gonna land, and just make sure it's kind of evenly spaced, giving me enough room at the bottom and room at the top. So I'm gonna slide this up. There and there, yeah. So that's gonna give me some room at the bottom and room at the top. I might cheat this one up a little bit. We could slide this up slightly. Let me recalculate this. 1, 2. So that it's evenly spaced. So we want an even amount of spacing at the top and at the bottom too. So that's just part of the consideration. So you can do it manually. I mean, some people are math whizzes, so they might just measure it and mathematically figure it out. I'm more of a visual person, so I just do it visually. And sometimes I kind of go back and forth a few times with this process, this little back and forth counting process right here. Yeah, and then that way I have one closer to the top within 1 inch and closer to the bottom within 1 inch. So we're gonna put our first one here. So you can mark, we're gonna mark where we want the hole to go. So the first one, I'm gonna start like right about here. So I'm marking this with a pencil, which I can clearly see. And then once we put the grommet in, it's gonna cover my hole. I don't want to use anything like a Sharpie on this kind of fabric because sometimes it can bleed and then it ends up outside of your hole. So we don't want it to show once we've got the grommet in place. And this pencil works really well because it's very visible. And it's not, I mean, if I have to erase it or something, I can erase it and move it a little. But so I'm centering it in the center of the tab here. Whoops, that one's not right. So I'm just gonna erase it. And then once we've got these marked, we're gonna do it on the other side. Perfect. Okay. So we just want to make sure. So now instead of using the ruler, I'm going to do it this way because I want to make sure that they're even from side to side. I'll probably go speed up this part of the video so that you don't have to watch this. Okay, so we've got all our dots there. Then the next thing I do is I use a seam ripper to poke my holes. So what we want to do, this one is a little thicker, so we're only going to be going through this top layer also. So I'm going to poke a hole with a seam ripper. And then very gently, just rip a little hole. And then I can shove this in there to see if it's big enough. We just want to make it big enough to fit the end of that into the hole. This part, you have to be really careful that you don't make the hole too big. Because then you don't want your grommet to pop out. Oops. Let me grab another one. Here it is. Okay. Shove it in there. Nope, still not big enough. You can make an X if you need to. So now I'm gonna go a little to the side of the hole to start making an X. There we go. So that is enough to push this in there. I just want enough to push it in there and then put the cap on the other side. Get in there. Sorry, I talked to my stuff. Okay. This is probably not the best position. Okay, so I've got the top part of the grommet in there. The bottom part is here. I'm just gonna bang this one in just to show you how it does, how it's done. So then I'm gonna turn this over so that this sits in this little groove. That's what keeps it from getting dented when you're pounding it in there. This one's gonna be, of course I could have picked an easier one to do the start. Okay, I just have a mallet. we basically want to smash this in until the middle part of the metal curls over. This is the worst. This is going to be the hardest one. Might have to get a bigger hammer. So now I can feel and see that this curled over and it's holding the ring in the back side of the grommet in place. I'm gonna give it one more bang. Hang on, I'm gonna get a bigger hammer. Okay, not bigger, but better. It's just heavier, the heavy metal. Okay, so that really banged it in there. So I'm gonna do one more and then we'll put it on high speed so you can watch me do the rest. Again, so we've got our little dot. We're gonna poke the hole. Just rip a little hole in there. So I went this way with the ripper, and then I got on the outside of the hole and just poked a hole and then came into the center hole just to try to get it open a little bit more. Let's see if we can get the grommet in there. Just a little at a time. Pick at your hole till you can get it in there. You want it to be a snug fit. You don't want it to be too tight or too loose because you don't want the grommet popping out. So I'm just using the seam ripper to pick out a few threads. So you can see now it popped through there. Okay, so I'm gonna take the back, put it in there. And I always have a cutting board or some hard surface behind it so you don't bang up your table or anything. I have a lot of cutting mats, and this one's great too because it's cardboard and it's really huge and it folds up. It's good if you're working in, like I used to work on my bed with this cutting mat. Okay. You can hear it too. You can actually hear the sound of it. So there we go. So there's the next one. All right, so I'm gonna speed this up a little bit. Well, okay, I'll do one more and then we'll speed it up. Just to, where's my, okay. Okay. X marks the spot. These are 1.5 inches apart, which is a good, probably standard width for corset lacing. That one went right through, so it's like the more practice you have, the better you get. This corset has 2 layers of fabric and 1 layer of black canvas on the inside. So the canvas helps keep the corset nice and stable. So I'm pushing on my ring. Take this little tool. It's got a little You can see it. Let me see. It's not gonna focus, but this little tool has a little divot. It's like, and you push it in there. I can tell by the sound of it. Okay, so that's nice and even. It doesn't have any dents in it. So when you see people that dent their grommets, it's because it slipped out of this mold right here. This mold is what keeps the shape. Without these setting tools, I don't know how anybody could possibly. There are presses. I have 2 machine presses that will do it a lot faster, but I've been doing it this way forever, and I'm only doing this one. If I had to do a bunch of them, then I would definitely use the press. So I'm gonna put it on high speed and let you watch me do the rest of these. Okay, so I'm gonna slow it down now for the last couple because I want to talk about this project a little bit more. And I wanted to show you, I made a mistake here. I forgot to put the disc on the back. So now it's basically an eyelet instead of a grommet. And because it's very secure, I'm not gonna try to dig it out of there, because we're gonna be lacing the laces through here, and it should be fine because it has all these other supporting grommets around it. So I'm not gonna I don't wanna make a mess by trying to dig it out and then having it look even worse because I tried to dig it out of there. Okay. Now this grommet, if you're wondering about this project was for a corset, it's actually for a performer, and she won this project. She bid on this project in an auction. So if you're wondering, like, what is the value of this, how much I charged for it, this particular project, I put an auction item. So the auction was at the City Arts in downtown Orlando, and it was to raise money for my sister. My sister had a program at Orlando Health that was an arts and medicine program. So it was teaching art to cancer patients. And I was also teaching sewing to cancer patients, which both of us have since left Orlando Health, which is another story. But this auction item was to raise money for that program. And so the person, I don't know how much the person bid on it. But the value of this project was $2,500. So I, as a celebrity seamstress and an Emmy-winning celebrity seamstress, so I won an Emmy for working on Shakira's Super Bowl halftime show costumes. I was one of the seamstresses that did a lot of the hand sewing on her costumes. And I'm also a costume designer. Recently the most recent project was Lego World Parade. I was the costume designer for that. And I also actually cut and sewed all of those costumes myself, except for the Ninjago costumes, which I had made by a martial arts company. So I charge $100 an hour for my work. So this corset was valued at $2,500, And it actually took me a couple of days. We're going on, this is the 4th day now that I've been working on this. So my process with designs like these is the first thing I did was I made a design illustration for the customer. So I use a software for that. It's an app on my iPad that I use, and it's called Pret Template. You can also use Procreate. Procreate has some fashion templates you can download that makes it work like Pret Template. I use Pret Template because it's super easy. It was really easy for me to learn. So part of the things that are included in this project was the design illustration drawing that I do for my clients so that I make sure we're all on the same page with what they want. So then the next process was I have some software that I use called Garment Designer. And so I built most of this design in Garment Designer. And this is a corset. This is a corset top. It's a little bit different. It has a built-in cropped jacket type sleeve and a lace sleeve. And I'll show you a picture of it when we're done, what the whole thing looks like. But so this design I patterned. I patterned it in a program called Garment Designer. So Garment Designer, and then when I cut it out, this corset has 3 layers of fabric. Whoops, I just realized I put the sleeve on upside down, so I'm gonna have to fix that. No, wait, it's right. Sorry, I have this backwards. So here's the front. See, I don't make mistakes. Sometimes I think I make mistakes. So this part will fit together. This is called a busk, a corset busk. So these are the metal things that hold the corset together in the front. And I made a covering for these that has, I did this almost like a buttonhole closure. So there's a seam here, and then there's a gap where these come out. And then on this side, I put the seam in between, and then the buttons come up the hole. That way I didn't have to use any buttonhole, you know, I just made the buttonholes out of fabric. This corset has a base layer of fabric, and then it has an inside layer, which is black canvas. So this is the canvas that I use on the inside. So that gives it structure and makes it just feel like a structurally a more heavy piece, holds everything in. The boning, this has a lot of boning in it. So there's boning here. So this has an extra seam in the side. There's boning in the side and 2 in the back. I have to add some stitches there. I also boned this and this just to give it some more structure and support. This person, she's a performer. And then it has this little jacket and this little sleeve because she wanted her arms to be covered in the upper part of her arms. And then we're gonna go ahead and lace this up the back. So this is, I have 2 types of lacing here. This, I'm gonna use power paracord on this because it's just heavier. This is another type of lacing that I do use, which is satin cording. But I'm gonna go ahead and use the black because we're also gonna add lace to the upper part of this, which I'm gonna do in a separate video. But the cording I'm going to do in black so that it has a little more contrast than doing the purple. So this I buy by the roll because it's just cheaper. And I'm going to have to grab the lighter. I'm going to just take a guess at, I'm going to unwind this a little bit and then we'll try and figure out how much to use. I'll just kind of show you how I... So when you're lacing these types of corsets, You usually start from the bottom up and then you stop in the middle, and then the top down and you stop in the middle. And that way it's, when you tighten it, it's easier to adjust it than just having one long piece from the top to the bottom. So the way I usually do it is I just kind of go like this, just back and forth to kind of just guess it. I feel like this might be enough for both the top and the bottom. So I'm gonna cut it off here. And then we're gonna cut this in half. Hopefully it's enough, I guess we'll find out. So that we have one for the top and one for the bottom. Now we're gonna take some a lighter and burn these edges so that it'll be easier to thread them. Okay. I don't want to do it over my corset in case any of it drips. Main thing is I just want to melt this so it's easier to shove through everything. And so it doesn't fray or come unraveled while I'm working with it. So it took me like a day to get all the fabric and materials cut out. The first thing I did was I actually did, I cut out the canvas and in the shape of the pattern using the sewing pattern. And then I had my client come over and do a fitting. Sorry, this is not working. I had her do a fitting in the canvas so that I could make some adjustments to the pattern and make sure that she liked the way everything fit her. So I do that a lot, especially when something that takes this much time to make. You don't want to have to backtrack if it doesn't fit right. Hang on. Okay, found some fire. So this whole project probably took, it's been a couple days that I've been working on this. Once I did the fitting with her and got everything cut out, I sewed the top layer, which was the fabric to the canvas. And using a process in costuming that is called flatlining. So I basically flatlined the fabric to the canvas for each individual pattern piece. Sorry, this is annoying. And then once I had everything flatlined together, then I sewed it together like normal, like you normally do. So it just gave this top layer reinforced it. Then the next, I put everything together, the front and the back. I did these side seams at 1 inch so that if it ever needs to be adjusted, if this design ever needs to be adjusted. But it's also got this huge panel in the back. So when you're making a corset, you actually want to make it smaller than the body measurements so that you can have a gap in the back where the lacing is to actually adjust it. If you don't bring it back a couple inches, then having this lace panel in the back isn't really going to make any sense because you can't pull it tighter if it's fitted to the person's measurements. So, so we did, you know, that was part of my design process. So now I'm gonna start at the bottom here. Let me see if this is gonna work. Yeah, shove these through. So once I burned it, it kind of makes a ball, kind of a burnt ball on the end. So that makes it easier to thread through. So this first one I'm gonna do, and make them even. So these are both even. And then we're just gonna crisscross through, all the way up, halfway. So this this corset's gonna be in a performance on Friday, downtown Orlando. There's a big art. They're shutting down all the streets. I wish I knew the name of it, but I can't remember. It's February, the end of February. I think it's the 21st in downtown Orlando, February 21st, 2005. So whatever that event is downtown. This person is a performer, so she works in the performing arts, and she wanted something that she could use, you know, instead of having to, a lot of times she's volunteering in this performance her time as well. So, you know, it's nice when I like, this was just such a full circle charity project because, you know, the money that she paid for this auction item went to an arts and medicine program. The money, the time that I'm donating to make it is going to benefit an art, you know, performing arts in downtown Orlando. And then she's going to be able to wear it for other events and things like that. It also gives me an opportunity to have a nice high-end piece that this person might not have otherwise been able to afford if they hadn't been able to buy it through the auction. And it gives me a nice advertisement of my brand. And I'm donating some other things for this other event that she's in. So this helps me to promote myself to local philanthropists and the types of people that go to these events and auctions. And so, you know, just by paying it forward and supporting the arts. So that worked out good, the length of that. There's still plenty of room to tighten it up. The laces probably could have been a little longer, but I know from my own corsets, sometimes they're just way friggin' too long. So I can, you know, I'll let her know that if she needs, because we're going to do a fitting, but if they need to be longer, then I can just swap them out. And I got a whole roll of this stuff, so if she needs them to be longer, that's fine. But because this, the gap here that I measured was about a 2-inch gap according to her measurements, so we should be good. You know, if her weight goes up or down, this is why this type of garment with a corset panels in it is nice if your weight goes up and down, or you know, it's just, I like designs with, and it's easy to get into because it has the opening in the front. So I don't like making designs where this is the only way in and out. I like to make it so that they can get in and out through a quick release way, especially when you're working with performers. You can't put clothing designs like this into a performance if it doesn't have a quick change component to it. And by having that button busk up the front, that makes it easy to get in and out of. The other way I do designs like this is with a zipper. Sometimes it's hidden, or sometimes it's visible. Excuse me, but then that way the performer can get in and out of it without having to go through a bunch of drama trying to get in and out of it. So if you have any questions about this project, I'm also gonna post the video of applying the lace trim to it, the lace overlay. So, but if you have any questions about this or questions about what I do, please leave a comment. And thanks for grommeting this corset with me.